I won't say it was a day like any other, because it wasn't. It was a day I will never forget. Every moment is still so vivid in my mind to this day. Every step towards those chalky green boards was like a step towards the gallows. The stares of my classmates like a hunter scoping out a deer. And the teacher's nod to begin like the final nail in the coffin. That day was the day I presented my report on Rhode Island to the rest of my third grade class. I know it sounds strange and innocuous, but this seemingly innocent day totally changed me. How so? Well, to find that out, let's backtrack. Growing up, I wasn't what you would call normal. I was very uncomfortable in crowds, and making friends was nearly impossible. This may be hard to believe for those who know me now, but it took years of work to become the vocal participant with an obsession for the limelight that I am today. Now, I wouldn't say that growing up with a severe stutter was the only reason for this, because in truth it wasn't. I was a mess of interlocked neuroses and paranoias, but having a stutter was a big reason behind my dislike of social interactions. It was like my mind was a great river of thoughts, ideas, and opinions that was met by the mighty dam that was my mouth that only let a small portion of my thoughts through. If you can believe, this was incredibly frustrating. School was a mixed bag for me. On the one hand, I loved the structure and the order of it and the opportunities to learn. I truly felt it was an area I could excel and truly show what I was capable of when not forced to talk to other people. However, when it did come to these non-academic areas of school, like socializing during recess, I was not so successful. I never felt truly included, despite many teachers' best attempts. It was often just much easier for me to stay quiet and watch other students talk and have fun. School passed like this for several years, up until third grade, when my calm complacency was snatched from my grasp. Okay, class, today we are going to start our unit on the United States of America. There are 50 states, and I will assign each of you a state to learn more about. At the end of the week, each of you will present a report on your state to the rest of the class. At the mention of a presentation, time seemed to slow. My blood turned to ice and my limbs suddenly felt numb. No, not this again. Why do I have to do this? Everyone is going to laugh at me. This isn't fair. After that, class resumed like usual, and students began to receive their state assignments, pretending like a bomb had just been dropped in the middle of the classroom. I was assigned Rhode Island, the smallest of the 50 states, and my new least favorite. As the week progressed, all I could think of was the presentation. Monday. Maybe Mom and Dad can get her to stop the presentation. I'm sure they'll understand. Tuesday. Maybe she'll cancel it. She can't really have all of us do it, can she? Wednesday. Only 2 more days? But my report isn't even started. I can't focus. Thursday. It's tomorrow. Maybe if I'm really quiet, she'll forget to call me. Friday morning. This is the end of the world, isn't it? That Friday was simultaneously one of the longest and shortest days of my life. Each moment felt like an eternity as our social studies time drew closer. Yet when I would look at the clock, it looked like it had been running double time. I seemed to be playing red light, green light with the wall clock. But then, finally, the presentation started. My teacher had a list of names that she went down in an order only known to her. States of varying shapes, populations, and environments whizzed past as I sat there not listening to a word. The anxiety would climax when a presentation would end. A name would be called, and I would relax as I was not the one called. But then the anxiety would build again as the presentation continued. Finally, after about an hour of this seemingly endless loop of anxiety, it was my turn. The walk to the front of that tiny third grade classroom was probably one of the worst parts. Each student's gaze beat down on me until I reached the board where it felt like a piano had been rested on my shoulders. Trembling, short of breath, and anxious, I looked to my teacher, and she gave me the nod to begin. As I began, I instantly knew I was already in trouble. Hello? My name is Christian, and my state is Rhode Island. I looked up from my crumpled report to look at my teacher. She looked at me with kind eyes and gave me a motion, telling me to breathe. I did just that and plunged on. Things seemed to be going as well as could be expected. My words were still jumbled and probably hard to understand, but I was getting through it. That is, until Katie spoke up. Like a crack of lightning in the darkness, she blurted out a simple question. "What did you say? I can't understand you." I looked at her and instantly remembered how many people were there listening to me talk. I immediately became confused and lost my place. I finally found it, repeated myself, and trudged on, confidence shaken. Sentences began to feel like paragraphs, and consonants were like Olympic hurdles. Then, another crash of lightning. "Why are you talking so funny? Are you doing it on purpose?" At this point, my teacher chimes in. "Katie, stop interrupting and listen." "But why?" she responded. "He's talking too weird and I can't understand him. Can any of you?" "Go to the hall right now. I'll deal with you in a minute," demanded my teacher. Her face, usually so full of grace, was now furrowed and lined with a look of deepest annoyance. She looked back at me and covered her look of annoyance with a mask of positivity. "Go on, you can finish now." I continued, but all I really wanted to do was sink into the ground and never be seen again. The words flew out of my mouth with a speed that no one could mistake was an eagerness to be finished. Once I was done, the class applauded politely, and my teacher gave me a warm smile as she went into the hall to talk with Katie. None of my classmates ever made any acknowledgement of what had happened, most likely because they did not understand the gravity of what had occurred. Young children rarely do. But in my head, I felt like everyone in that room had shouted just as loud as Katie had, her words being the rallying cry for the comments they had long wished to speak, but were never allowed to. For years, I looked back on that day with anguish, and I associated that fear and anguish with every form of public speaking. This followed well through elementary school, into middle school, and part of high school, even. However, after coming out of my shell through the later half of high school and into college, I realized something. My experience, while painful and traumatizing, was a big reason why I decided to become a teacher. I realized that I never wanted any other student to feel like I did. Helpless, ostracized, not feeling welcome. I wanted to be there for any student who felt like I did. I could be a role model for students to show them that they can do anything. Who better to listen to than the antisocial shut-in stutterer turned professional educator?